Okay guys, this is going to be video number 2 for our CBA study guide. We're going to be looking at 6.2c, I can locate, compare, and order integers and rational numbers using a number line. So our first question is Alyssa will correctly label the numbers 48.4, 48 and 1/2, 48.09, and 48 and 3/5 on the number line below. Which number will be closest to 49? Well, as you can tell, our number line goes from 48 to 49, and there are 9 tick marks along our line. So each one of these is going to be representing a tenth between 48 and 49. So this will be 48 and 1/10, 48 and 2/10, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and do that before we get started with the rest of the question. So now that we have our number line labeled, we want to look at where our numbers go. Before we kind of start putting them on the number line, I'm going to go ahead and just label them A, B, C, and D so that our number line doesn't get jumbled up. Well, our first number is 48.4, and it looks like 48.4 is already a number on our number line, so we're going to go ahead and put a dot there and say that that is letter A. When I look at 48 and 1/2, I know that 1/2 is 0.5, so 48 and 1/2 is 48.5, so we're going to put that as B. C, it says 48.09. If we were to think of this as money, it would be $48.09. And when I think of $48.09, and when I look right here, this would be $48.10. So where would 9 cents go? Right before 10 cents. So we're going to label that as C. And then I've got 48 and 3/5. 3/5 I just can't put on the number line somewhere, so I have to change the 3/5 to a decimal, but I already know that it's going to be 48 point something, 48 and 3/5, so it's 48 and something. So we're going to change that 3/5 to a decimal. So I've got 3 divided by 5. 5 goes into 3 0 times. Add a decimal, bring it up. Add a 0, 5 goes into 30 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. And I subtract 0, so I've got 0.6, but I already know that I started with 48 and something, so that's 48.6, which is going to be D. So when it says which number will be closest to 49, I start at 49 and I work this way. And when I work this way, the first number that I hit is letter D, 48 and 3/5. And then we look at our next question. We're kind of flipping the script a little bit. It says Dana placed the following points on a number line. Point P at -24/3, point Q at -9/2, point R at 7/2, and point S at 15/3. Before we get into the negatives, let's look at our positives. So 3 goes into 15. I want to simplify that. 3 goes into 15 5 times. So S should be at 5, and that is correct. So we're going to go ahead and just put a check mark. I've got 7/2. 2 goes into 7 3 times with 1 left over. So this should be halfway between 3 and 4. It looks like R is halfway between 3 and 4, so I'm going to give it a check mark as well. But now I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to look at my 2 negative numbers. I have -24/3. Well, I know that 3 goes into 24 8 times, but it did start as a negative, so P should be at -8, and it looks like it is, so I'm going to give it a check mark as well. Now we're going to look at Q. Q says -9/2. When I look at 9/2, I know that 2 goes into 9 4 times with 1 left over, and it started negative, so it's going to stay negative. So I should be at -4.5. And when I look at Q is at -3.5, and I need Q to be at -4.5, so Q is not in the right place. So when we come and look at our question, it says which number is not placed correctly on the number line, and I notice that Q is not placed correctly on the number line. I hope this helped with this section, and stay tuned for the next video.